The Roy's go Hollywood, baby. Okay. Hello and welcome back to the Popcorn for Dinner podcast, right here in the middle of Fuckywood. Today, we're discussing episode 6 of Succession's final season, and I couldn't be more excited. I hope you could hear that in my voice. To be joined by our very own human Chernobyl. Guys, it's Ebube! Ebube, how are you doing?
First of all, I'm way more Hollywood than a human Chernobyl, but I'm doing okay. I'm definitely doing better than Chernobyl. was.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that.
I mean, honestly, I didn't see another point where I could get that phrase into our discussion. I just had to put it in at the beginning because to call someone a human in Chernobyl, Kendall, man, what's going on here?
What on earth? Yeah, everything about there's so many things about this episode that felt so haphazard. Like everybody was running on vibes, and that's the thing that happens sometimes in Succession. But they took it to the max in this episode. Like this was very, very, very Hollywood.
Who do you think,
especially with Kendall's weird behavior?
Without going into detail, because we're obviously going to talk about the episode, that's what you guys are here to listen to. Who do you think was running most on vibes?
Ooh, interesting. I am actually going to say Kendall.
Ooh, okay. So
I'm going to say Kendall.
Not Roman, who was
I was thinking maybe Roman, but his is more a situation of the results of being pre-grieved rather than somebody who thinks they know exactly what's going on. You should have gone to
Kendall's great grief guy. Kendall has the best grief guy.
He truly does.
Okay, so before we talk about all of that, guys, come on, it's admin. We are still doing Barry. We're still heading towards that final week that has Barry, Succession, Yellow Jackets, and Ted Lasso all finishing within like the same 8 days. So that should be fun. But yeah, we're still covering Barry. Obiora, right now, the episode should be on your feed, depending on what time you're listening. But Obiora and Jeremiah covered episode 4, so please check that out. That's also on YouTube if you want to watch that. Yeah. What else are we still covering? Yellow Jackets. We're still covering Yellow Jackets. Obviously, last week was a dead week. There was no episode last week, but we're back this week for a very, very intense episode, guys. Trust me, if you watch Yellow Jackets, you want to watch this episode live. You want to listen to our episode immediately. What else are we covering? Love and Death, the show starring Elizabeth Olsen and Jesse Plemons, a favorite of this podcast. We obviously didn't cover the first week, which had episodes 1 to 3. And if you've watched that show, you know that we had to be back for episode 4. So we're going to be covering episode 4, hopefully to the end of the season. I'll be doing that with my friend Comfort. Ted Lasso. Ebube joined the boys last week to talk about Ted Lasso. He just loved the episode so much that he had to just jump on. So also we have
so many feels.
We have a special episode coming later this week on Ted Lasso. I'll be joined by a friend, so please check out for that. What else? In the words of Kendall Roy, our franchise pump is pumping, guys. We have a new film-focused podcast, Is the Cinema, fronted by Priscilla and Jess, produced by Chinedu. Please check that out. The first episode is out, where they talk about the movies that they're looking forward to for the rest of the year. Some great discussions on Barbie, Oppenheimer, Dune, some of the regular favorites. And then later this week on Friday, the next episode will be out, and hopefully every Friday or Thursday going forward, we'll have new episodes for you guys, because it's just, unlike the Roys, I'm not dumping a money truck on them, but hopefully we get the franchise running. Okay. Let's talk about Succession. Anyway. Season 4, Episode 6, titled Living Plus. Living Plus. Written by Georgia Pritchett and Will Aubrey, and directed by the returning Lawrence Scafaria. She finally got to shoot Kendall on a stage. After last season's bait and switch. So, we're going to talk about the characters in a bit, and then I think we'll focus a lot more on the investor call. So, but before all of that, actually, let me ask you a question a bit. I know you listen to podcasts about TV shows. If not, I know you're listening to like the official ones. Do you ever go in like
Mhm.
expecting people to talk about something and then they talk about something completely different? And like, how does that make you feel? Do you feel disappointed? If you're like, oh, that's actually a good angle that you guys took.
Interesting. I don't really. I guess I go in with not that many expectations. Like I kind of just go in with the curiosity of what will they talk
Mm.
about, rather than are they going to talk about this one thing. But yeah, once in a while there will be a thing that I'm kind of tuning in just to listen to get thoughts on. And then if they don't talk about it, I'm like, huh, I guess it wasn't that important to you. But that doesn't happen too
Yeah,
often.
okay. I just say that just to because I had kind of structured this episode and then this really came to my mind. I think maybe last night or early this morning, just when I was thinking about this episode. So I just don't want to disappoint any listeners. I want to start by talking about the. I don't think we're talking about the emotional impact of Logan's death on these kids since really episode 3, like since really Connor's wedding episode. And I think now might be a good time to do it because we might not have the space to do it going forward. But I just want to talk about how profoundly broken these kids are. And every time every time a character reacts or says something in light of Logan's demise, I'm only part of me is always like, LOL, like this guy was terrible.
It's not too soon.
No, not even that. I'm just like this guy was terrible. Like I feel like you guys are, like it was, but it's not that it wasn't that deep, but
Relieved that he's gone.
I was
Yeah.
like, guys, you kind of hated this guy, but at the same time, obviously, I know he's their father. There's abuse, all of that. But I just want to talk about were you or this is the question. Let me arrive at the point. Are you surprised by how much this is impacting them?
No, he was their father. Despite everything they think they knew,
Mm-hmm.
everything they think they had under control, he was not only their father, but he was their boss. He was the most central figure in their lives. I mean, I hate to be that guy again, or maybe I love to be that guy again, but Kendall hasn't seen his kids in a long time. He sees his
You
dad in his
don't know
sleep.
that. You don't.
So,
You don't. No. You don't know
okay,
that. Maybe
all right,
maybe the camera just isn't
okay.
showing. Also, it's been like 5 days, right? So maybe he only gets visiting
Mm-hmm.
time over the weekends. Maybe.
Visiting time.
Yeah, like
Amazing.
do you think Kendall got what they call it main custody? No, he did
Custody.
not. Okay, let me throw you a follow up. Actually, I was just thinking about that. Do you think the characters are surprised by how much the death is impacting them?
Some of them are. I think Shiv is for sure.
Hmm.
Um, I don't think Roman is surprised because he's too busy still thinking that he has it under control. I don't think Roman is even aware that he's grieving and lashing out. Um, I think he's the only one that had any real, like, fully outward expressions of love towards Logan left to give. Kendall and Shiv both would have said that they hated him. I don't think that's something Roman would have said. Like, I don't think Roman could physically have said, "I hate this man," or "I hate you," or "You made me hate you," anything like that. Like, Shiv and Kendall have both said variations of that.
But
Um,
importantly, Roman is the
yeah,
last person to speak to him, quote unquote, and he basically asks him if he's a cunt. Like,
yes, but he does that because he expects better, and you expect better you expect better from people that you love and or respect, right?
hmm,
He was essentially like because he's like, yeah, I respect you. I'm glad that we're working together. I'm going to help you on this Matson thing, but I'm going to go to Connor's wedding. Oh wait, you're not coming to Connor's wedding? What the hell is wrong with you, man? Like,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
let's be real here. So that was kind of there was a sense of disappointment there, especially since Connor actually also loves Logan. Like, he actually is still looking for that chance to kind of commune with him. He's learned to live without that love being reciprocated, but he's still a human being. He's still looking for love in all those other places. Thankfully, he has Willa now, and she's fully on board. Like,
Our
Willa is
faith
like one of the
couple.
great transformations of this show. but but yeah, I think everybody is kind of dealing with it kind of differently, and I think it makes sense what it's doing to each person on an individual level.
Yeah.
How they interact with each other as a group is also, an effect of this. I've been seeing a lot of people talk about how their camaraderie that we saw in episode 1 is not going to last. I think on some level it's still kind of lasting. so
Yeah,
far.
but once we saw it in episode 1, I
So
knew it wasn't. Is it even kind of lasting? Like Shiv is literally double
I
crossing
mean,
them.
in a sense, but first of all, the other two don't really know that, and they have this attempt at the very least to work together. In past seasons, everybody was at odds, trying to mess the other person up, only coming together in brief moments of like, look, I really need some emotional support right now,
Yeah.
and they don't give that easily in this family. So
Can we
I think
bookmark
that
that a
was
bit, because that's a very good point, and something that I want to pull on when we in like 2 minutes when we're talking about Kendall, about literally not the first scene, but the first scene with all of them and the trying to discredit Martin. Let's bookmark that a bit. But no, yeah, like just to wrap up the whole Logan's impact on them is that they're all watching that video or a variation of that video. Roman has that joke edited video and he's just playing it over and over again. Kendall is also playing the original video over and over again. We see Shiv watching the
I
video.
wonder why he needs that. I wonder why Roman needs that.
But it's
Like,
like that's the only way he can hear I think it's the same reason Kendall is playing the video over and
it's
over
still
again
the
at the beginning.
denial though. Look, Kendall, I guess, kind of wants to hear that because he's trying to prove something. For Roman, it's like, why do you make someone do this? And it's so funny how they actually built on, like, that whole thing with Roman listening to that particular kind of recording. That was obviously building on what Greg had said to that guy. And as somebody, like anybody who has edited the video, was just feeling very annoyed and triggered when when Greg
You said you
was
have to
doing what he
do
was
it.
doing. I was just
Yeah,
like, are
but
you insane, bro?
my reader of that is that it's Kendall that sends Roman that video.
Yeah,
And it's like a
yeah,
joke,
that's
like, oh,
true.
you're pissed. Like, I think it's a joke. I don't think it's serious. I think it's
No,
like,
no, it was definitely a joke. But
yeah.
my thing is, why is Roman listening to it over and over and
I think
over
because
again?
it's the
Like,
only connection he has to his
does he
dad.
still thrive on deprecation?
I don't think so. I think it's just that because it's his dad. I think
He
it's
just
because
wants
his
to
dad
hear
is
his
speaking
voice.
to him, and the fact that his deprecation doesn't stop him from listening to it. Like,
Yeah.
you might be like, oh, I want to listen to my dad, but he's insulting me, so I won't listen. But like, no, I don't even care if he's insulting me. The same thing happens to Kendall. He literally calls the children terrible, but Kendall is still like, doesn't matter, play it again. So, yeah, and also Shiv is scheduling her grief, which we'll obviously talk about in a second. Okay, so let's talk about Kendall. Let's start with Kendall. What we're going to do, we'll talk about the characters before the investor call. Then we'll talk about the investor call as a whole towards the end. So Kendall and Roman are still trying to crash the deal. Their plan now is to paint Martin as volatile.
Good luck.
And I don't want to argue about whether the greybeards see through. I don't think that's important. But I think what is important is that they're like, it doesn't matter. Like what they say, his character is priced in or something like that. It's just like, we know he's volatile. We've already taken that into account. So it's just another attempt by
Pulling an
Roman
Elon.
and Kendall crashing and burning. And then Shiv says it. Shiv says, boys, you're not good at this. Which, back to the point I said I wanted to bookmark, it reminded me again of what Ibuka said about episode 4, and we discussed last week about how everyone is just like, it felt like previous, and this might be, I don't know if this is because everyone is just saying what they need to say with because Logan is no longer there, or because there's a finale coming up and we kind of have to just say what we have to say to reach the finale. We can't really hide things anymore. So it's like, which part of it is from the character, which part of it is just making TV. But in previous seasons, she wouldn't have called them out on it. She would have probably gone back and continued her scheming. She wouldn't have been like, boys, I see you. What did she say? She said, I see you. You're not good at this. Like, remember when you tried to lie to dad that I spilled something in the Range Rover? Like, you're still you still have the same tics that you had when you were a child. Like, so I don't know if she would have called them out previously, but yeah, no, she calls them out, and that was very interesting for me to see. And they quasi apologize. Again, I don't know how.
Quasi. I think that was probably the best they could do. That might have been the
But do you
realest
think they
apology
believed
we've ever
it?
seen these guys.
That's why I added the word quasi. Do you think they believed it?
I think Roman did. Maybe not Kendall.
Again, yeah. But yeah, okay, so Kendall continues this episode trying to make this investor call, because now they've decided that since they can't get the board to be scared of Martin's character, they will try to just make Waystar Royco to too expensive for Martin. Essentially, they said he can't afford more than 192 per share, so they want to increase the Waystar share price. And Kendall has this
So
big idea.
and that's funny because when in the for the original bear hug, right?
Mm-hmm.
What they decided to kind of come up with was, as a response, was a poison pill, and that's what they're doing again. So we said last week, the bear hug is, when they make the company essentially irresistible by the numbers, right?
Yeah.
So you have to take that offer to your shareholders. So a poison pill is now in response to those people who are trying to give too much money, you basically fatten the calf so much that even their large amount of money can no longer contain or afford what they're trying to get. And
Yeah.
that's called a poison pill. That was the entire reason Logan was trying to go for Pierce. He was like,
Pierce.
okay,
That's what I
well,
was gonna
if we
say.
buy
Yeah.
Pierce, then Sandy and Stewie, despite their great offer that we have to take to the board, they
But too big for
can't
them to
afford it.
swallow it. Essentially, yeah. Yeah, and in this
It's the
case,
same thing here.
Kendall's idea is to make a tech valuation on Living Plus. I'm not really going to try and explain the in and out of that because I don't think it's that important too. I have no idea.
Do you know though?
I think I understand the concept, and so I think it's
Actually a very specific reference, but yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Explain the reference.
Okay, so are you familiar with WeWork?
Yes.
Okay, so
Jared Leto and Jessica Chastain. Sorry, I'm joking.
LOL.
I have a rough idea, but yes.
Oh my god. Okay, so here's the thing. He said, I think we can get a tech valuation for a real estate proposition on this.
Mm-hmm.
And then Roman says Living Plus, and I was actually dying because WeWork is well, anyone who doesn't know, WeWork is a co-working space company. It's essentially a real estate company. They let you kind of get space to like work with people on your own, whatever the case may be. It's kind of a subscription service. But the founder of WeWork, Adam Newman, or co-founder, he kind of wanted to expand it. Like he and his wife, like even outside of his actual co-founder, but he and his wife were trying to do all kinds of things to expand the business. They wanted to make it like We Grow, where they were building a school, We Live, like to have like basically apartments and dorms. Like he thinks he invented dorms. Like it was such a weird list of things. They had like a whole slew of adjacent businesses that were coming out of the WeWork brand. And for some reason, there was an insane amount of hype around this. WeWork at its peak was valued at $47 billion. Like 47. And that makes no sense.
Wow.
Basically, the basic thing there was that for some reason, they managed to get a quote unquote tech valuation on what was actually a real estate company. They made themselves seem like a tech company, and Wall Street valued them as that. But WeWork was not a tech company. WeWork was a real estate company. So Kendall coming here and saying, I think we can get a tech valuation for a real estate proposition on this is a clear dig at WeWork, because that is exactly what happened, and it's too funny.
I love Greg saying, well, I don't know if we can consider real estate tech because people have had houses forever.
That's literally a response to that.
Yeah, in the most basic terms. So, what we can say about Kendall, because you can say lots of things about Kendall, but he has very strong creative ideas.
Yeah, even though I don't know how he's going to inflate that price to 192, but yeah.
Oh, I'm even talking about just his performance. He wants the clouds, he wants the houses. He says it's Hollywood. It's like create the house in nights. This is the same guy that wanted to like sing Billy Joel on stage with like what were they called? The little Wu-Tang Clan. What their names?
It was like little
I think it was just Tiny Wu-Tang actually. I think it was just called
Tiny Wu-Tang. Yes, Tiny Wu-Tang.
Oh my god. Anyway, yeah, so Kendall wants to increase Waystar's share price to friend of Martin, and he wants to, and it then leads to some mathematical mumbo jumbo, which look, guys, I don't know what it meant, but I could tell that it was wrong. I could tell that what Kendall was doing made no sense.
That's the thing with this episode. Everything was just running on vibes. Like everything was so haphazard. You're watching stuff. It's like I feel like most people were seeing this. Like I don't understand what's actually going on here. but I just know that everyone is confused.
And you can tell that Pete is about to have an ulcer because like
Clearly.
he's really killing Pete. Like, I remember when he's like, Pete is like hair, and Jeremy Strong is like hair. What is that?
It's
Actually,
bullying.
can't talk
Bro.
about Jeremy Strong here because before I forget, like
That's Hollywood.
he's so fine tuned to this character. Like you can have all the method acting allegations or whatever, or think pieces or whatever, but like whatever he's doing is so obviously working. Like they do an extreme close up on his face, and I'm not seeing somebody acting. I'm just seeing Kendall Roy. Like he's just Kendall. Like he's just Kendall Roy. Like you believe every reaction he makes. You believe everything. And look, back to what we're saying about the grief earlier in this episode. Jeremy Strong is a great actor, but Kendall Roy isn't. So like when he says that stuff at the in the presentation,
Yeah.
like that's not him acting for the cameras. Like you know that's genuinely how he feels. That's like he wishes all of that. So anyway, yeah, look, he's just, and again, obviously all the actors on this show are really good and everyone does something so well, but like I don't know, there's some things Jeremy does some of the small things so well. It's like, oh, he's living in that character's head. We should mention that Kendall and Roman try to solve death, which is meant to be what Living Plus. Jesus Christ. I wonder how like the writers be like, this is what we're gonna do. Living Plus. Basically put old people together and like give them 20 extra years. Anyways, let's talk about Greg quickly and Greg's ability to always be in the right place.
Greg is still too funny. He just is.
And I think the show now even knows what they're doing because they basically revealed Greg like a surprise in that scene. Like you think it's just Kendall and Roman talking, and then the camera cuts and Greg is there as well. Like they started that scene with a wide of the three. Obviously, Succession doesn't really do wides, but you get what I mean. They started that scene establishing all three of them in there, but they're like, no, like they want to show you that Greg is here, and all of a sudden he's just there, like
contributing to the conversation.
He's making what I can't remember what they said in. This is so terrible. I'm forgetting my references. But in Mean Girls, when they're like, stop making. Is it fetch a thing? I can't remember. Somebody remind me in the comments. Anyway, but he's making the quad squad a thing. Like he said it so many times that
he's
it
committing.
becomes real. Like he's there. Roman is lightly jibbing him. He's not even insulting him really, and he's like, Kendall is giving him high priority. Like, guys, that's a big task that Kendall gave him. Like Kendall's entire thing relied on Logan being able to say double, and he gave that to Greg. That wasn't busy work. That was a serious job,
and he made it happen.
To Greg. And almost, like you said, an almost impossible job. And honestly, anyone that's looking closely will see that it's not possible. Like that was not real. Just... But you're not really looking closely. Like, anyway, yeah. And I just loved. And again, Greg is so fucking slimy, man. Like at the end of Kendall's speech when he's like, Tom, I'm here for you, like I'm supporting you, but he's only really there so he can congratulate Kendall. Like he's telling Tom that he's there to support him, but he's only really there so he can be there when Kendall finishes his speech.
Yeah,
Greg, man,
he was even telling Tom like, your presentation sucks, so you don't have to follow anything that just happened. You can say things exactly as you wanted. And then Tom's presentation actually did suck. Like, what was he doing? Pulling
you an ATN citizen. You an ATN citizen.
ATN citizen. My goodness. In fact, just let me just stay on Tom for a moment because.
Stay on Tom.
No, because first, what is wrong with him today? Like this episode, like he's making so many weird decisions, not just with Greg, but even with.
So?
I think he kind of is.
Should we table that for the shift discussion? Because I don't think so. I don't think he's making weird decisions.
I think it's weird in the sense that, like, from our point of view, we're not used to seeing him doing certain things, like being fully open. Okay. But for him, like from his point of view, the decisions definitely make sense. I'm just saying it's weird to see Tom in certain like. It's
back to what we said, isn't it? Like, Logan is gone. Everyone is unleashed.
Basically,
see Carl having 3 back-to-back incredible episodes. 3.
I can't actually with
3.
Carl because
So we'll get to Carl when we're talking
he's
about
going to
the
pay.
investor call.
He's at this rate. I know he's going to pay. But anyway, we'll see.
So let's just quickly go to Roman. Roman, as we mentioned earlier, goes on a firing spree. Why do you think he fires Joy Palmer? Who, by the way, I should mention, she plays a pivotal role in last season of Barry, so people that watch both shows might have recognized her. Why do you, and I think she's also married to Barry's stunts coordinator, which is just, anyway, sorry. Why do you think he fires Joy Palmer? Because I have my theory.
Well, first of all, why don't you go ahead and tell the people who she actually is and what she does? Because I'm sure that may have been confusing.
Okay, so do they, because I think, again, I have a theory, but do they say it explicitly who she is and what she does?
They don't say it explicitly. They kind of contextualize it, but the closest.
So I believe she's the president of Waystar Studios.
Yeah, the closest they come to saying what she does is Jerry saying she's a studio executive.
Yeah, so I'm thinking she's president of Waystar Studios. I'm trying to think of somebody that is, I mean, basically, I don't know if she's Kevin Feige. Probably Kevin Feige.
She's kind of like Kevin Feige.
Yeah, so Roman is kind of like Bob Iger, and she's Kevin Feige. That's probably the easiest way to kind of put it in.
Yeah.
Although obviously Marvel is niche compared to like Waystar Studios, that is everything. But that's kind of like the.
She's kind of like the Kevin Feige. Like if this was Disney, this would be the Kevin Feige of, say, Disney Animation Studios or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, Kevin Feige is the best example for normal people to know. Like I can't mention random studio here. You guys know who that is. So like Kevin Feige is probably the best because she's not a director, but she's an executive. But yeah, you get. So to me, she was like the president of the studios. Anyway, why do you think he fires her?
Because he's insecure. He, like, first of all, firing her is absolute madness. At first, it's one of those things where I'm watching this show, and I'm thinking, okay, this is a joke. This is like this is not going to land. But then his face stays serious, and then he leaves the room. I was like, okay.
Even the way he does it,
yeah, I was like, okay, you're committing to this. He starts by gaslighting.
I've said
her.
it, so now I have to.
He gaslights her first, then he gaslights himself, then he gaslights her again, and then he's like, you know what? I think it's best to commit to this. And as he's walking away, she's like, you're going to regret this. Like, you're making a mistake. And
like, huh?
I think it makes sense, first of all, that Jerry would come to talk to him about this since she's general counsel. But I like that.
No, talk. You using talk there is doing a lot of heavy lifting.
He's doing quite a lot of heavy lifting.
Jerry was not talking.
But yeah, I mean, that obviously it kind of brought them to a new moment in their quote unquote relationship. But he fires Joy Palmer because he just gets this sense from her that she doesn't think he's capable of doing what he's supposed to do, and that he's an idiot. And Roman has this thing where he's used to people treating him like the quote unquote idiots, like just a happy-go-lucky dumb person. And I think he's feeling strong, but he doesn't think that she respects him. And he says that. He's like, I don't think you're actually, giving me the respect that I need. I know he says that to Jerry too.
Jerry, yeah.
But like he was kind of implying it more with Joy. And he asks about, first of all, the movie that they're making these people watch. He's like, okay, somebody's gonna get fired for that, right? And it's like, yeah, lots of heads and
big egos.
Yeah, it feels to him, I think, that she's trying to use, I guess, kind of vague words to sort of delay and obfuscate and just like get what she needs out of him. And he's like, well, I'm here to give you what you want. Like, I'm just going to pour money on you. You just need to do exactly what I'm asking. And then she says, I'm sure you got to where you are for a reason, something like that.
So to me, that's
exactly
point.
where
there is.
Once he hears that, it's
just
a wrap. Like, he's like, oh, really? For a reason, huh?
Because I think because obviously she's saying, like, look, Jared Menken is causing us stress. I was just imagining Seth MacFarlane, because Seth MacFarlane is obviously very, very open about the right wing, but then he has Family Guy on Fox, and he would insult Fox News on like Twitter, but then he has Family Guy at 8 p.m. on Fox. Anyway, she's like, look, Jared Menken is causing us stress. Creatives are we don't like this. And to me, there's a second. Remember when Roman is like, "Oh, you want me to say more words?" Yeah, that's kind of how meetings work.
Yeah, literally.
Okay, no. So to me, there's a moment where he's about to become sincere because, like, he looks away and is like, "Okay, look, I get it. I get the problem you have. blah, blah. He's about to explain it and everything. And then he says something along the lines of, I'm sure you're like thinking I'm a fuck up or something
Yeah,
like along
yeah.
those lines. And I think that was him being sincere.
Yeah, he was trying to actually be
And
like,
then
"Listen, look, you can trust me. You know, you can trust us."
yeah, and then instead of her just like laughing,
She just said, "I'm
or
sure
like
you're where
chuckling,
you are for a reason." I was like, "Oh my god."
and I found because I laughed at that. Like I laughed at that. Like I was like,
Yeah, because
"Fuck you, Joy."
anybody
Like, you know what?
around who was listening to this meeting would have immediately started laughing at Roman. Like that was a clear, like, just
So
veiled
then
insult.
Roman react, and then the camera stays on him. The camera stays on him throughout that
And
entire.
then he
Like you
starts to
see his face
spiral
process
like he
that,
did for
and
Matson.
then I was like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
I see it. I see.
it was
Maybe
it was good
his
for
brain
him.
was just replaying Hanna-Barbera Business
Oh
School.
my god, bro! Like, I think it's just it's funny because from there, like, he really thought he could just wipe it away. Like, you know, his first of all, your dad isn't here to save you anymore, right? He goes to Kendall and he's like, okay, I may have just fired Joy, I may have just fired Jerry. You know, like, is that okay? Can we?
No. The funny thing is, like, sorry to interrupt. He says, "I think we should fire Joy."
Okay, yeah, so he right, so
So what would have happened if Kendall was like, "No, fuck that, we can't do that"?
then he would have
What
had
would
to
have
walk
happened
him back
next?
essentially. But Kendall agrees with him,
Okay.
right? Kendall agrees with him, which then made me laugh because he said, "Yeah, you know, it makes sense. You know, we're coming in, we're shaking things up, we're making moves." I'm like, Joy's livelihood is tantamount to moves, gentlemen.
I mean, look, isn't that look? We've never really discussed what this show is about, right? Because I prefer to just talk about it weekly. But like, isn't that what this show is about? That like, so many lives are in the hands of a few idiots, like a few stupid people. Like Joy, entire family, and everything. And obviously, look, nobody's really crying tears for Joy because she's also quite rich. But you get
Especially
what I
since
mean?
she's
Like,
about to make a killing off this lawsuit, this wrongful termination.
yeah, like these guys are just like, let's lay off X amount of people. You're like, these are real. These are not like CEOs. These are real people that are living paycheck to paycheck. And the show is like, these are the people who control the world. They are stupid and have daddy issues. That is what this show is. If there's one sentence, that's what this show is saying. It's like, these are the people that we think are so smart, right? This is who they are, and it's like it's across all boards. It's the Roys, it's the Pierces, it's the Vikings. All of
Vikings.
them are just stupid and have daddy issues. But focusing on the actual plot or whatever happens, I like to me, two things about what you said. One, I find it so interesting that they keep using their dad as justification. Like, this is what dad would do. Puts on the dad goggles. Like, every time they want to justify a bad decision, like, this is what dad would do. And part of me
Because
is
they don't
like,
understand accountability.
is it?
And it's
Like,
actually
is it
not
always,
what he would
like,
have
I feel
done.
like dad would not do everything. Like I know he was a dick, but like, I feel like sometimes he would not always do the worst possible.
Yeah, he was a
is it
rational
actually what dad
dick.
would do? Yeah, look, let's put on his gravestone. The burial doesn't happen yet. There's still time. Logan Roy, irrational dick. And then another thing for me that I was quite conscious about, like you said, is Kendall. He's really supporting Roman. In order to, like, basically supports him when he fires Jerry, quote unquote, Shiv's godmother. Obviously, they
Which
walk
you
that
should
back.
not be doing.
So my question, and you don't even have to have an answer, but you can answer if you think you have an answer, is Kendall supporting Roman because he wants to be this supportive fellow CE bro, in the words of Hugo, the bad one, or could he be heading down Manic Street? Like, are these signs of mania coming? It's just like, yeah, that's good. Like, are we seeing season 1, episode 7 to 10 Kendall coming back? Like,
Yeah,
like, is this a sign of mania?
I don't think it's a sign of mania. I think he is actually trying to support, but it's a question of why he's doing his like the different reasons. I think there's more than one reason that he's providing this support. On some level, there's the whole, you know, we need to kind of have each other's backs and be on the same page as the quote unquote CE bros. But I think there's also a part of him that can see that Roman is sort of spiraling, like he's not as pre-aggrieved as he claims to be, and he just wants to make sure that, like, you know, that he has like that backing that he needs. And obviously, a lot of people's lives don't matter. I mean, when Kendall hears that he's fired Jerry, right? You can see there's a tiny bit of shock there. He's like, wait, you did what now?
Like Shiv's godmother Jerry, or is that a different Jerry I don't know about?
No, literally, like it was wild because obviously they have the power now to walk certain things back, and this really is an interim position. Like, let's not forget that if and when the sale goes through, you know, they're not really going to be the CEOs of Waystar Royco anymore. They'll probably be the CEOs of some other sub entity or something. But yeah, I think him saying,
Well, they'll be the CEOs of PGN.
well, assuming that works,
That's the hope.
yeah,
Yeah.
like him saying that like Jerry doesn't treat him with respect and that he'll fire her too, like that was such a weird thing because he's throwing these things around to lash out, but I don't think he understands the gravity of the words he's saying, and it just shows his inexperience. Like somebody, I don't know if Logan probably he's definitely the type of person who would threaten people, but his threats aren't just like empty or used for bravado. Like if Logan was saying something like that, you could be sure, like, okay, he's thought this through, and there's actually a chance that he could really fire you with cause. But Logan is trying to, I mean, Roman is trying to seem scary, and that's not going to work out for him because, first of all, Jerry is not easily intimidated. And it's also interesting to me that despite everything Kendall has said, everything he's done, like he's trying to hold on to this company. He was supposedly the one who was always like, I know tech is going to eat us all up, which is what Jerry says in this episode. So that's just proof that this whole thing is a farce because Kendall has gone out of his way to tell him, let's be the new Gen Roy's. Like tech is coming up. We can't be holding on to a legacy media company. But here they are now trying to hold on to a legacy media company, firing all the people that can help them actually run a legacy media company.
Yeah. Well, I think if you asked Kendall, if you're able to get Kendall to be his most honest self and ask him one-on-one, I think he'll tell you that, like, yeah, he doesn't want Martin, but he believes he can find the right tech person. Like, he believes that, because I think because he wanted Martin before when he was like, he could control the company and have Martin. Remember, he wanted Martin when it was not Martin buying the company, when it was like, I can't remember what deal they had in place last season, but like, Martin as a share. So I think he would tell you that, like, no, I still believe in tech, and I believe that once I fend off Martin and we are CEOs of Waystar, we can find the right tech company, maybe another Swedish billionaire or whatever. Something about Kendall, though, and I'm sorry we're back on Kendall as I was talking about Roman, but like, he knows, he might not be a serious person, but he knows the right things to say. Like, when he's detailing that article to Roman, I'm like, yeah, this is what The Economist or Wall Street Journal would say. Like, these CEO bros are getting rid of the old guard and they're shaking things up and they're like, what he's saying makes sense, at least to me, as someone who is not
he knows how
involved in
stuff
that
would
world,
play,
but reads articles. Exactly. Like, he which I think his ascent in season 3 was actually quite good because, like, he cared so much about social media, but because he also knew how it worked. Like in first half of season 3, that ascent before his birthday, he kind of knows, he might care too much, but he knows how that works and he knows the speak, which comes into play during the investors meeting, which we talked about a second. Let's talk about Shiv. Right. And if you can remember, bring back that your Tom and Shiv take. But Shiv and Martin continue their, in my opinion, sexually charged subterfuge.
I think that's what he wants it to be. When he gets off that plane to walk onto her plane, I was just like, wow, this guy is probably only not in jail because just because of money, because you can just see that this guy is fond of harassment just in general. Like he's just the person who doesn't leave people alone. And it was hilarious to see him like actually get off the plane. He's like, oh, like she should come. I was like, what is wrong with you? Like he was giving Swedish tech billionaires so much. Like Skarsgård, I clap for you, man.
Yeah, him walking across bare feet was such a choice.
Literally a choice. Like
I can't. It's just that's not in the script. I'll be surprised if that's between Lorraine and Alexander. Like it's just like I was like, that's just a choice. That's such a great choice,
and it makes so much sense.
So, and his physique, and we went about this a bit last season.
He basically lumbers, right? Like,
but I'm pretty sure he must have shot the Northman between season 3 and season 4. So he doesn't quite have the Northman physique, but he's not like when he tells Roman in last episode, like, careful, brother. Like when I'm like,
He
Ruma,
could probably beat you. Like,
he could probably like he looked like he could fuck you up.
oh my god.
So like he does obviously he's not the Northman, but he's also like he's not Tom in the words of Shiv. Like he's broad, but he's slouching so much. Like he's slouching because he's with someone like Ebba who's quite not tall, right? So he's slouching so much in that scene. He's slouching on the plane, like when he's moonwalking back, and like I was just like, his physique is so like good, and you just see him domineering, and just like yeah. And then whenever you do see him sitting, he's like slouching really badly. Like he looks like me sitting on the couch. Like he's just sunken. I was like, oh, this is just Skarsgård is doing an incredible job. But yeah, so Shiv does doing, and we know that they're continuing their subterfuge, and then Shiv is scheduling her grief. What did you think about that?
I thought it was a choice, right? I was at first I thought she was on the phone with someone, but then I looked at what was actually going on the device, and I realized that okay, this is a time where she's even before she said it to him, I was like, wow, is she taking out 15 minutes to cry? And I don't know if anybody's seen the show on Apple TV Plus called Shrinking. Yeah, but that's literally
I was gonna
what they did, and I was
like,
like, wait, is she doing the 15 minutes to cry thing? And I was like, wow, okay, well done, Shiv. I guess that's an actual thing.
Yeah, because if you've not watched Shrinking, then that looks like a very eccentric and weird thing that only a Roy would do.
It's a real thing that therapists apparently
But then if you watch
recommend.
Shrinking, yeah, and like they actually do have, and I was like, watching Shrinking, I'm like, oh, that's something I'm actually doing in my own life. And then so like it is weird without watching Shrinking. That could be very weird. But then when you watch Shrinking, you're like, oh, because obviously in Shrinking they give more context and they explain it properly. You're like, oh, okay, that probably why not. Anyway, so yeah, I didn't know you had watched Shrinking. That's why I asked you for your thoughts on it. Anyway, Tom shows her kindness
Before they play Bitey or after they play Bitey, because I need to understand what is going on with these people.
We'll get to Bitey. Well, we're still in the grief room. There's a lot of, well, maybe a lot is a harsh word, but there was discourse regarding Tom and Shiv after episode 4 on the stairs. People said it's like it was him being manipulative and stuff like that. I'm not going to debate that because I'm sure different people can read it different ways. But then I'm also interested to see how this scene is read, because I personally did not read it as him being manipulative. Like when he hugs her, rather. Like I don't think like he was like, oh, she's down and I'm gonna try to ingratiate myself. I think he was him trying to show genuine kindness. That might be my man goggles talking, so I don't know. How did you read that scene before they kissed?
Like him showing her genuine kindness? Like whether he showed her genuine kindness or...
Yes, did you think that was genuine kindness? Or did you think it was a move, it was a play, it was...
I don't know, I think when it comes to Shiv, with Tom, it's probably a bit of both. You know, I've talked before about how he actually is very tactical, but at the same time, he does have real affection for Shiv. I think why Tom stands out really in this show is because he's one of the few people with an actual emotional core. Like Tom is actually a very like touchy-feely, emotional, craving human interaction type of person, which is why his interactions with Greg actually end up being so memorable and so fun for the audience, because the Roys barely actually commune. Like they don't really like get into feelings, which is why I was actually shocked at one point where Kendall and Roman were talking in this episode, and I was like, did they just almost talk about their feelings? Like where
he was like, look, that thing that happened was not good. And kind of like death. It's like yeah. Historically, guys, death is not good. Historically,
he's like
people
yeah, it just took me by surprise. I was like still handling how it happened to Dad, and it was like going on before I even realized. I was like, wait, hold on, are they talking about their feelings right now? What is happening?
Did that just say an emotion? Did Roman just say feeling?
But yeah, with Tom, I think it was a bit of both. I think he kind of goes into that with some kind of tactic. Then he realizes, oh, this person needs some kindness, and then at that same time, he's like, I can probably use this to like make sure I have like sure footing in here.
So you do think he was? So you fair enough. So you think he
It's
was?
definitely
He
on
was
his
thinking
mind,
like you.
and he
I, I
admits much.
I should go back and watch that scene and see who went in for the
Yeah,
kiss
I think it's
first.
something that's on his mind
My
because
memory is that
like
it was Shiv, but I need to
yeah,
go back.
just because he he's constantly thinking about it. Like his main concern right now is surviving in this situation. He's getting to a point where even Greg might start. It seems to me like Greg might be starting to see Tom as a liability.
Oh, I
So
think
yeah, so
100%
it's
he
getting
is,
to a point where
and
he
I
has
think
no allies,
Nicholas
even Greg.
Bruns.
So Tom, staying alive, staying afloat in this world is Tom's main priority. So I think even if he is showing kindness to Shiv, which I believe he is, there's a sense of, okay, how can I make sure you know, I shore up my footing here.
It's very good that you made that point because I wanted to bring it up. I completely forgot. But in the inside episode for last week, the Norway episode, Nicholas Bruns said something about how Greg is beginning to lose a bit
In
of
Tom,
faith
yeah,
in Tom, and he's kind of looking for where he might plant his feet. I'm like, oh, okay. Now that obviously that then paints into kind of how he's more. Man, Greg, for someone as big as he is, he finds a way to enter the corners of these
truly.
conversations. Okay, I'm gonna talk about biting it. Trust me. Now, so Shiv and Tom are finally able to speak with each other as best as they can, and they play the weirdest game of who hurt who more before actually physically hurting themselves. What do you want to say about biting?
I just want to know who came up with that and why it's a real thing.
It's such a Roy game, isn't it? Like it's such a game that
It's like we want. It's
should
like
play.
exactly. It's like they probably came up with that as kids because they wanted to have, actual physical connection that I was just saying they don't do. But
They
like,
wanted to feel something.
but they
wanted to
didn't know
just
how to
feel
actually
something.
ask for it because they can't talk about their feelings. Just hug, guys. It's fine. You can hug.
And I couldn't be like when she described it, I was like, oh, they're gonna go to like a closet and do it. I didn't think they were gonna do it in the middle of the
Literally,
event.
like
I was like, guys, people are
people are
watching.
watching. People are here, and then it led to them actually like hooking up. What is going on?
Anyway, you laughed at me. You called me a madman last week when I told you that their abuse to each other would make them hot for each other. You thought I was a madman, and then
Yes, you have been vindicated, but but I don't know what's going on anymore because they're sickos. They're actual sickos.
So they go and they are. And
like when he sits down and he's like, "Look, Shiv, there's nothing more important to me than the money." I was like, "Wow, Tom,
Okay,
look
so
at you."
So so I wrote that down because that is the most I've ever.
That is the
like,
most
that's the
honest he's
realest
ever
they're
been
gonna speak with
with
each other.
her, and vice versa.
Yes. So he says after talking about how, which again you mentioned that the real one difference between Tom and everyone else is that he thinks about money.
He knows it can go
Like,
away.
Greg thinks about money, but he knows it it can go away, but it always come back because he has.
It's in his blood
like,
to take it for granted. Let's put it that
at
way.
the end of the day. Yes. So yeah, exactly. So like he might right now not have money like for tomorrow, but he knows he'll have money next day. I don't want to. Do you get what I mean? Like it's not the same as the Roy. So, but Tom has to. When he says that and think about money, and then he goes, "You didn't ask me in, Shiv," which is obviously what you kind of said in our season 3 finale episode. You kept me out, and I've always agreed to all the components. And it seemed to me that I was going to be caught between you and your dad. And I really, really, really love my career and my money. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow. Like he didn't even say I was afraid. He was like, and then he goes, I like nice things. I do. And this incredible dagger. And if you think that's shallow, why don't you throw out all your stuff for love? Come and live with me at a trailer park. Are you coming? And then she replies, well,
Anywhere for love.
I'll follow you everywhere for love. Tom Wormscans. And then
Yeah, and that was the exact point where I knew in my head that I would tell you,
wow.
These people are sickos. Literally, they are sickos.
Are they though?
They're honest
or are
and
they just
real sickos for the first time in their whole lives now, but they're still sickos. That whole thing was low-key terrifying because I was kind of impressed with him for actually doing that. It's like when Connor asked Willa,
Wait,
like,
if I'm,
are you, are
yeah.
you with
Oh,
me?
yeah. At the wedding.
Are you just with me for money? But this whole thing with Tom, like, Tom has, like, let's be real. Tom has made enough money, right? That he should be okay. But Tom doesn't want to just be okay. And also let's be clear here. The okay I'm calling okay is way more than okay. Okay? So let's just be
Hmm.
clear on that. So Tom is going to be fine, but he doesn't want to just be some rich guy. He wants to be one of the
Mm-hmm.
rich guys. And to do that, he has to stay in the
Mm-hmm.
circle. He has to stay within the locus of control. It just makes sense for him. And he doesn't want to give all that up. Like, it's like, I've been here. I've worked hard to get here. I'm not going to let it go. So, of course, I was going to choose self preservation, right? And he admits that to her, and I think on some level, she likes that. Like, it makes her like respect him more in that moment
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Caroline has Collingwood, her mom has said before that she's like Logan in the sense that she didn't have anything that she loved that she didn't kick to see if he would come back, right?
I should go
And
kick it
she's
with.
been doing
Mm-hmm.
that to
Yeah.
Tom partly because he kind of makes himself an easy punching bag. Like, he kind of plays that role so that he can stay in, but he's still trying to stay in. However, now, in order to do so, he's like being a punching bag is not the way. The way to do that now is to actually be as ruthless. Is like just to be real with them, and I think that makes a lot of sense for where his character is going right now. The fact that he's still in Shiv's life in
Yeah.
this way is interesting. I actually almost thought that she was gonna actually tell him about the pregnancy. Like, they almost had me there, but
One thing at
exactly.
a time. One thing at a time.
Let's play by ear today. We can talk about the pregnancy
But
next
to
week.
yeah, but to confirm that she does like respect him more, she
Hmm.
asks for his
Yeah.
advice on Matson, and it's funny that that's preceded by him saying, "What does he say? You hate me." I think it says, "Do your brothers hate me? You hate me." And then she just replies. She doesn't even say, "No, I don't hate." She's just like, "Oh, what are your thoughts on Matson?" But that reminded me of a point I made last week, which is like, again, the conversations we don't see. Like, what did Tom and Shiv discuss? Because the next time we see them, she's in her office about to talk to Martin, and he has like his feet up. He's super comfortable. He's like, what agreement did they reach? What exactly has happened here? Their story ends with her saying that, look, if we're going to have the election party, which the way things are going might be end of the season, unless it's next week. But I don't know, because they kept on saying that the election was 10. I don't know, unless it's next week. But it was like, if we're going to have the party at ours, if we're going to host it, we're going to host it together, but we're not going to get into our shit, which is probably, again, the healthiest the Royals can be. Should we go to the investor
Yeah,
meeting?
well,
Or do you have more thoughts on Tom and Shiv?
I think that's pretty much everything on them for now. I I wonder how the way she interacts with Matson is going to affect that relationship with Tom, whatever it is right now. I mean, when she's calling Lucas and saying, "Hey, Lucas,
Mm-hmm.
hey, sweetie," I'm like, "What are you doing?" Um,
Yeah, but that again,
yeah,
like, Tom is right there. And Tom is like comfortable with it. So I'm like, this might be a plan. This is not something that
yeah,
hurts Tom. You get
he's
what I
just
mean?
like
So like,
asserting
yeah,
his presence, which is kind of an interesting choice on his part. But that speech that Shiv makes to Roman, I wonder if she's trying to, like, about Kendall. I wonder if she's trying to drive a wedge between them in some weird way, and it makes me actually wonder, like, and obviously, and
yeah.
I think this is actually kind of a good segue into the presentation, which, by the way, let me just say that presentation worked. Like, I can't believe I'm saying this.
It worked.
I can't believe
It
I'm saying
worked
this, but
so
it
well.
actually really worked.
And
Like, that was actually like an interesting product launch event. It really went well somehow. So well done to them. But
so it reminded me a lot about the fact that Kendall just always
mm-hmm,
seems to step up. Because it reminded me a lot about the
mm-hmm,
Congress hearing from season 2. Like, in these places where you think Kendall, because we fucking know him, you think he will wilt and shrink. He steps up. Remember in the Congress hearing, he's going all out. Like, Logan is the one that's quiet. Kendall
yeah,
is saying all the right things, right? Even the press conference, end of season 2, he's saying all the right things. But then here again, he
Completely.
knocks it out of the park. Like, we're gonna talk about the tweets in a second, but like he handles that so well as well. Like some things are obviously cranes, like obviously having the dad go back and forth and talk and everything, but it's still just so well done. Like, but let's give some background. So, like you mentioned, Shiv is kind of like talking in Roman's ear, like, do you want to do this? I don't necessarily think she was trying to put a wedge, or at least that's not how I read it. I read it as she was just trying to not make it go through, right? Because that's obviously what Lucas had asked her to do. And I think Roman goes, again, where I read that was that Roman goes into that room trying to cancel the entire thing. But he ends up just pulling only himself out. Like he chickens out. He can't really cancel the entire thing. He's just like, okay, well, maybe you should do because I'm a bit scared. I don't know if Kendall sees through it. I don't think Kendall sees through it. I think he believes that that's true. I don't know. Yeah, and then David Rashi, as we mentioned earlier, gets another Hall of Fame scene because he's just like, okay, count. Like it's funny because he starts off being like, oh, can I see the numbers? What, can I just be in the loop? And then he's like, okay, fuck it. Look, boy. He basically said, boy, look, what does he say? You have my dick in your hands, but I have yours in mine too. Like, you can't fire your CFO just after taking over. Like, another scene just
and
to
that's
chew
funny
him
to me
out.
because
So well done.
it's like these episodes are starting to give us like tiny moments of reckoning, just to to address things that they may not have addressed before. I guess Logan dying really makes it a new world because because throughout the episode, Kendall is just he's just manufacturing numbers. He's manufacturing words as well. He's like,
what does he say? He tells Roman in the room, he's like, we have new numbers for
and I was like,
North
from
Carolina,
where?
whatever state he was. He's like, well, like, where do you have these new numbers
the
from?
fact that the show would take its time to have the CFO of the company come in and be like, bro, what are you actually doing with these numbers? Because if my head is rolling, I will make sure that yours is rolling after mine. So that was really funny. And the fact that it's Carl, I'm telling you, Carl is just like comedy gold in this show. He basically always has been. But as you said, yeah, these past 3 episodes, Carl has been on fire. I feel like he might end up paying for that particular one, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Because
I mean, we'll see. I mean, but he is right. I don't think even, and Kendall
everything he
realizes
said
that
was
he
insane.
cannot. And again, like, look at God, Kendall's face, man. Jeremy Strong, like, you can see him just getting chewed at, and it's like, oh fuck, he's right. I can't actually fire him. But it's interesting that obviously Jerry chews out Roman, and Kendall gets chewed out by Carl in the same episode, like the two greybeards. Yeah, so let's talk about the. We don't have to. We're not going to go beat by beat of the whole investor thing. Like I said, it's very well done from Kendall. He does it very well when he says, "I would love to get on that deal, with my dad or whatever." And then Skarsgård,
Pulls
Lucas
an Elon.
Martin, sends out a tweet that says, "Dodrick marked Fry," which is a reference to we somehow have some German listeners. I do apologize for I'm pronouncing this terribly, but it's a reference to Albert marked Frey, which was on the gates of the concentration camps that said, "Work sets you free," or "Work makes one free." Dodrick, in this case, is the name of one of the Waystar.
It's the one that Greg was wearing in the first episode.
That Greg was wearing, yeah. So, like, basically, imagine somebody said Mickey marked Fry or something like that, with a picture of Mickey Mouse and the concentration camps. My brain froze for a second there. What was Martin trying to say with that tweet?
Well,
that they're keeping the old people together as like a concentration camp.
Yeah, I think. That was my sense there, and there was also the fact that he was trying to just introduce anarchy for no real reason other than to introduce anarchy. He's like, okay,
because he does say, he says, "I know what I'm doing." Like, he says,
100%.
Like, I know what I'm doing.
He's like, okay, because he's like, you need to make this stop. And when things don't stop exactly as he wants them to stop, he's like, all right, I'm going to take matters into my own hands and introduce some wahala for you guys. So I think him introducing that amount of like stress is kind of just to throw them off because he knew that somebody is going to. That's always the thing, actually, also in these presentations. And like journalists, love and respect them. But when somebody is on stage, having been looking at you for the past 15 minutes, right?
It was
And you're
so
asking him,
bad.
have
I
you
was
seen
so
the tweets? Are
annoyed.
you a dumbass, bro?
No, wait. Yours is bad, but it's even slightly better.
It's like,
He
what
didn't
is
say
your
how, he was like,
response? And it's
what
like,
is your response
how,
to Lucas's tweet?
we've been
I
here.
was like, bro, we've been together.
No,
You've
that actually
seen
made me a little bit angry because
He wasn't like, oh, this is Lucas's tweet. Do you have a response? Like,
it's like,
what?
yeah,
I was like,
okay,
bro,
okay, yeah,
I'm
you're
playing
right.
catch up.
I
How
do
am I
know
to know what
that
tweet
is
you're talking
because I've been
about?
staring at my phone for the past 5 minutes. You actual idiot.
I thought, thank God it's not just me. I was so annoyed. I was like, I can't believe you actually just did this. But obviously that's what they would do in real life. I mean, there's something similar that even happened in Ted Lasso, wasn't it? Anyway, Kendall's reaction is so good. Like, he says all the right things. He remembers
he
to
does it, and
apologize
he apologizes without
to
even
like
really admitting
Holocaust.
that much guilt because he didn't do the tweeting. I was like, wow, look at you. Your
And I was
media
like, oh
training
my
is
God, this is
actually
so good.
coming out.
This
Like
is so
you
well
went to
done.
school.
I was like, geez, I was like, this, he's actually not. Like, I thought the tweet was all like, he will do some
Where like
classic
everything just
Succession,
like ends up going down the
well,
drain, but
like,
nope.
he was on. I was like, oh my God, this is so good. I was actually in awe of how good he was. Like, I was like, he's actually
Props
handling
to
this
him,
so
for sure.
well. Yeah,
And
and then he goes to the beach to be baptized again. I don't know what to tell you guys. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, I should mention, I wrote this down because it's just so funny. Shiv, when he comes, Shiv says, hi,
literally,
Kendall.
because obviously she's with Matson.
And then Kendall obviously laughs at the joke. So I was just like, oh my God,
It's so
this
stupid,
family.
especially since everything about him coming back was funny because people are cheering him. Hugo, as usual, is doing the most. Like, you just have to love Hugo in this show. and,
But I think Carl was even doing
literally,
more. Only
he
Carl
said
said,
that,
this
and
guy
I was
is
like, Carl,
special.
really?
This
After
guy is
everything that
special.
just happened, no problem. And then Roman leaves because he's like, wow, like,
Carl said,
I
this
didn't
guy is
expect this to
special.
actually work, first of all.
Do you think
On
Roman
some
has
level,
FOMO?
yeah.
Like, I should have been there.
But I don't think he would have been able to handle it.
Because there's a shot. Oh no, he wouldn't have. It wouldn't have worked with him. Because there's a shot before when I think when the dad. No, maybe it was before when the dad came on. I can't remember when Shiv is like that. Kendall is basically failing, and it was like, Roman, are you happy that you're not part? And then obviously things take an upward turn. Do you have any idea where this show is going in the last 4 episodes? Like, do you even have a random roadmap? Because
Nope,
I can't.
zero.
I can't even imagine.
The only thing I know
anything.
for sure is that there will be a funeral, and that's where we can expect certain kinds of reactions. But I have no idea how it will affect the business, how it will affect the election, because that's still a thing that's looming. Like, the election is really, really looming, right? So, like, in the same way that for the first 2 seasons, that that investor meeting, like the first, like the shareholder meeting, was a thing that was being mentioned, and then eventually we got it in season 3.
Yeah, I mean, we've kind of got more confirmations about this whole
Yeah,
one
exactly.
episode, one day thing. And I mean, I think we might have misunderstood that because, I mean, there's a night in this episode. They sleep. They sleep in the Sweden episode. So what I'm thinking is maybe each episode starts.
Yeah, essentially, each
the day
episode
after
just
the last episode
continues
ended.
like the next day, right? Even if they're like, if we have 3 days in an episode,
Yeah, so I don't think it's gonna be 10
the next episode
10
will start
days.
at day 4, something like that. So I don't know if it's 10 consecutive days, but it's just
Yeah,
like,
that's what I'm saying. So I don't
it's a consecutive
exactly. Yeah,
stretch of time.
it's consecutive days. Exactly. Yeah. So I don't think it's like one episode one day because I think that's what. But yeah, I think it's like there's not going to be an episode that starts 2 days after the
And-
last episode ended,
yeah,
essentially.
yeah.
Which again, look, you can think that influences a lot of their thinking, a lot of their reactions, because then you're like, holy fuck, this guy Kendall is on stage giving this speech to all the investors in front of a hologram of his dad that died 4 days ago. That is insane. Like, this is like you should be doing this type of grieving that you should. This is the point when you should be doing like grieving and nobody sees your face. Like you just like, and they're out there having to do this kind of business stuff. Anyway, yeah. So I have no idea where this show is going, and I mean, by their past records, and we mentioned this. I think it was episode 1, episode 2. No, it was episode 3, Connor's wedding, about how Jesse Armstrong is still a TV writer, and he still wants to go for something that is shocking. Like they won't do something for shock value, but they would like to write something that is shocking. And every season has kind of like the last 4 episodes have kind of changed the trajectory of the season, and something shocking usually happens towards the end, right? So we still know there's a quote unquote twist still to come. So yeah, I don't know. This is one of those episodes where I'm just like, oh fuck, this show could have actually gone 3 more seasons.
It really could have.
Could have just done
even here, like, you know, with Roman not being, he didn't seem okay with like Logan being in that presentation. I think every time he sees Logan, it just like sends him down like, into a weird place.
I don't think anybody was okay with that, but yeah, Roman especially,
yeah, you could get so many plot points out of even just that, and even with the 10 episodes being like a stretch of time, like a close stretch of time type of thing, it allows them to do a lot of things production wise. For example, they don't have to get to a point where Shiv actually is showing in the pregnancy, right? So like,
yeah, because obviously they wrote this before they knew that Sarah was pregnant. Because Lorraine, who directed the episode, also directed the Connor's wedding episode. No, sorry, the Wake episode, said that it's actually Sarah Snook that's falling down in that scene, but they didn't know that she was pregnant at that point. So like, and so Lorraine was like, when she found out, she felt really bad because she had made Sarah obviously fall down, and I'm just Sarah knew she was pregnant, but she wasn't telling people. And she's like, so Lorraine obviously, as a human being, but more so as a woman, is like,
maybe you could have told us.
I didn't like. Could you please have told me? Yes, because that scene is so like
that was very real.
Somebody falling, like that's not. There's no cuts, no like that's actually her falling, and you're just like, could you have told us, please? Like I made you fall when you're pregnant. Like, bad things could have happened.
That was crazy.
Anyway, so
but yeah, with the episode itself, I think one of the questions, I had questions going into this episode, and I now have questions leaving, right? So going into the episode, I was thinking stuff like, how are Tom and Shiv doing? Did they actually go for dinner, for example? And then we get to see some answer as to how their relationship is. Then I also thought, what is going to be the deal with, I guess, Mattson and his relationship with Kendall and Roman? Like, are they going to actually talk? Will there be some kind of rehash? Of course, they addressed it right at the beginning. These guys are lying about what happened at the mountain, as if like the way they're lying is so wild.
Outright lie. We didn't even say that, but yeah, just outright lie.
Kendall is out here saying
like opposite. Like I was like, no, you guys are the human Chernobyl. Or Roman, you were the human Chernobyl.
Like Kendall even went so far as to use the, you know, we didn't tell you because we were protecting you line. It's like, bro, what do you think this is? Like, nobody believes that. Like, how can you actually? You don't even believe that. But and I think that kind of thing just leads to very funny moments, because where they should be getting allied, there's now like these little divisions. So instead of them doing all this stuff with Shiv as they said they would, they have Greg sitting in on all these meetings with them. Like, you're just seeing Greg in places where Greg normally wouldn't be. Live more forever. Like, like what's that? Is that like literally the slogan of Living Plus? Like, live more forever. I just thought like, these people are crazy, and all of that put together kind of leads me to the main question I have going out of the episode. Which of Caroline Collingwood's sons is more unhinged right now? Like, which one is more unhinged? Because I know we're thinking about what could come as the season ends, but I think one of the responses, the answers to that will basically depend on which one of these two guys is. I
think it's Roman. I think Roman has,
on the surface it's Kendall, but Roman, I'm worried. Let's just put it that way. Even though,
I think Roman firing Joy and Jerry in the same episode. It's like Roman would have fired Carl
100%
if Roman was in Kendall's position. So yeah, I think your answer is probably Roman. But because we've seen not Jeremy Strong, sorry, we've seen Kendall Roy for at this point 35 episodes. I know a humongous descent is coming. I know
Yeah, the
something
shoe always
big is
drops
coming
for
to
him,
destroy him. So
and
like
that's
that,
what
it's
makes it
coming.
sad.
It's
Just watching
coming.
him interact
It's
with
coming.
staff. That's Hollywood. Yeah, we want to build a stage on, like, we want to build a house on this stage from
Yes, Kendall.
scratch.
Thank you for the new
And
rule,
he's telling them,
Kendall.
yeah, that, oh, thank you for the new rule, Kendall. It's like nobody.
Overnight.
I was like, what is
No
wrong with
news.
you?
Thank you for the new
He's so,
rule, Kendall.
yeah,
I think that's
because
a
like,
good point. I think
what
that's a
is
good point to
wrong with
end
him?
it.
Like,
He's such a
no
bad
stage
man.
direction, no idea of production costs, production values. Like, oh, I imagine this thing in my head, so it has to
Clout.
be a
Give me
reality, and
clout.
nobody can say no to me. I know you guys are capable. I
Oh
believe in
my
you.
god.
Do it or else. And it's so dumb. Like, from that to Greg with the double earnings thing. Like, these people are just. It's just so funny how they're making fun of Hollywood in this episode through these like little things. And yeah, I just felt like I remember when Greg was talking to that editor guy, for example, and I was like, "Listen, Mister Snippy Snip, Greg is not your boss. Greg is,
Greg was like, my
oh
turn to be in
gosh, man,
charge.
that
Oh, it's
was too
not kill
much."
me. Anyway, anyway, I know we're online, but can we do the huggy thing?
I don't do
huggy
huggy
thing.
things. I do actual hugs. These people need
In the
to.
words of
These people
Roman.
need to get over themselves. Like, can we do the huggy thing? He can't even
Oh my
say it.
god.
He literally. Oh
Leroy's.
man.
You have to love them. I was so afraid that they were going to recreate. Like, everybody knows that picture of that hug on the airport tarmac. Like, I thought that was down their thing, that they would recreate it, like, literally the exact position. I was like, you guys cannot be that demented.
But I like Shiv's
Please don't.
face while they were
Anyway,
doing it. Said a lot.
Yeah, she was not buying it. Okay, guys, thank you very much for listening. We've gone over an hour again, and I'm pretty sure at this point, every episode over the rest of the season is going to be over an hour, so I apologize. But yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for still checking out Succession with us. And we'll be back next week. Now, at this point, as we approach the final 4 episodes, I can't really... Look, it's just... Well, we're crossing our fingers every week that we get the screeners. So... Because at this point, they're going to stop... They're obviously going to be very secretive with their episodes. So we hope we still get screeners. But if we don't get screeners, obviously we'll have episodes out as soon as possible for you guys. But yeah, check out everything else we're doing. Barry, Ted Lasso, Yellow Jackets, Love and Death. I think we're very
you don't
invested
say.
on HBO on this
I had no
on
idea.
this podcast. HBO and HBO Max. Anyway, we just follow we just follow the quality. That's all. Hands up, Kevin Hart meme. We just follow
Especially
the
now that
quality.
industry has been-
Follow what
they're
comes
making
to
that
us.
for
Anyway,
us. So
they are making it for us. Shout out to Mickey and Conrad. Okay, thank you very much for listening. Everybody, thank you for coming on once again. And yeah, guys, check out Is This Cinema. We have some fun ideas. There'll be blind debate coming out this week, in which Ibuka and Priscilla debated 2 things that I give them live on air. So that was quite fun to watch them scram. I don't want to spoil what it is just yet. But yeah, thank you guys very much for listening. And join us next week when we'll be joined by
later.
Daniel Kaluuya. Bye, guys. Okay.